to illuminate the often unseen mental health challenges faced by first responders, police officers, firefighters, paramedics, and 911 dispatchers. By sharing their stories, fostering understanding, and promoting resources for support and healing. We aim to break down stigma, advocate for improved mental health services within the first responder community, and inspire hope and resilience. This is the Weight We Carry podcast.
What's going on, guys? This is Bart with the Weight We Carry podcast, and today we have Mr. Tyler Kelly with us. Tyler, what's going on, brother?
What's going on, Bart? Good to talk to you, my man.
Heck yeah, long time. I saw you growing up as a little kid, being a Ross guy myself, and your dad is a supervisor of mine. I've seen you at like the Ross Christmas parties and everything coming in as a young kid, man. And it's cool to see where you're at now.
It's awesome, man. Like, I've run into the Porter kids and stuff like that, and we just say, it's all one big Ross family. Even if you didn't work there, if you were family, somebody that worked there, it was one big giant family, man.
That's right, man. So what have you been up to, man? I know you're a fire chief now and a paramedic. What's been going on in your life? Anything good, I would assume?
Just this year, I made rescue captain here at Allegheny Valley Fire Company, and then very quickly was promoted to deputy chief here.
Heck yeah, man.
So I'm getting my feet wet with some of that executive stuff. I just got my first ever business card in the mail yesterday. So, getting that set up's been pretty cool. Kind of tedious, right? Like learning, growing up and growing out of, maybe having a hotter head or whatever, right? It's definitely difficult. It's a learning experience. Going to the convention in Monroeville, right? I did a lot less oohing and on at fire trucks and picked up more business cards and talked to more people than I ever thought, right?
Heck yeah.
Doing the paramedic thing, for a living, it's going great. I've had some pretty good success recently. My family's doing well, right? Dad's side's doing well. Mom's side's doing well. Got a girlfriend thing hanging out with me now, so pretty cool. She's a police officer, so
keep you in check.
Yeah. Keep me in line. That's what I need.
Heck yeah, man. I'm glad to hear it. Well, Tyler, let's just get into the questions. Like I said, we can just veer off if we want, but have some good bullet points to go over. And I just want to give the world your story, man. And it sounds funny, but it's our mission and your story. I don't want to interject too much, and I want you to, just have the platform and let people know what's going on with you, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I haven't been around as long enough as some people, think, right, doing this kind of stuff. But, I mean, a lot of stuff's happened in that short time. So
awesome, man.
Love to get it out there.
All right, man. Let's get it. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you into the career of public safety?
It's not like mom and dad work behind a desk, right? Son of a paramedic and a police detective now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the stepson of a nurse and a volunteer firefighter. Granddad was a volunteer firefighter, fire chief. I got military in my family. I kind of grew up in and out of fire stations, grew up around 210, right? Like, didn't really,
best place ever, man.
From it. Yeah, never got away from it. But it was just, it's what I grew up seeing, right? Like, I would assume if you have a parent that, you grow up in, it's, as an accountant or, some kind of businessman, right? You'd be like, oh, well, dad does it and, he does pretty good at it. Maybe I can do it, right? I think it was just a natural progression for me. I did get some pushback, right? Like, mom and dad knew very well what the life was like in public safety. When I was growing up, I kind of wanted to go to the police academy, and my mom said she'd shoot me herself if I went to the police academy. So I went and became a paramedic, and then she says, you're just like your dad. So
paramagic, baby.
Yeah. So can't make everybody happy, but yeah, man, I think it was just a natural progression, and it's what family was around, and if you're around your family, you just kind of follow along. So
did you really think this was going to be the path you were going to take?
I think so. I think there was always some kind of service or some kind of something that I wanted to do, right? I don't think there was ever a time. I think I even found a piece of paper moved recently, and I was going through all my stuff, and I found like this drawing I made. I swear, probably from kindergarten or first grade, that said, when I grow up, I'm going to be a paramedic and a firefighter. And it was like, I looked at that, and I kind of take a step back, and I was like, holy shit, man, I did it, right? Like,
Yep.
and I didn't even know what, to be honest with you, right? Dad was one, but I didn't know what a paramedic was when I was 6, 7 years old. I didn't know the difference,
Just
right?
a dash
Like,
full of magic.
yeah, right. Like I didn't know what any of that meant, man. I saw flashing lights and trucks going fast and making a lot of noise, and I obviously, right. Everybody coming out of EMT school has that little bit of fear of, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. Somebody's life's going to be in my hands. It's a lot, right?
Yeah.
Then you get out there and you do it, and it just feels natural. It feels like you are exactly where you're meant to be at the time you're meant to be there.
It's awesome, man. It's
I
in your
think that's
blood, man.
kinda, yeah,
It's in your blood.
Honestly, I think that's where, I just think that's where it's taken me, and how I've continued and want to continue to continue.
I'm glad to do it. I'm glad that you're doing it, man. Because, like I said, I know the family that you come from. I know your family pretty well. It's cool to see the generations go through it. Like I said, your dad was a mentor to me. He taught me a bunch of stuff when I was a fresh new EMT. My car was still wet. Then my signature was like, oh man, it's gonna rub off.
Yeah.
But he did. He was one of my big cheerleaders when I first got to Ross, man. I'll never forget that.
It's cool to see that he continues that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, when he was talking to you a couple weeks ago about just like still making sure everything's good with you, making sure, family's good, right? That has nothing to do with work, just caring about you as a person, and I would honestly say, right, we talk probably 3 or 4 times a week, it'll make sure we're, everybody's doing okay, everybody's healthy, but more often than not, it's kind of cool because it's like talking to one of your coworkers, right? Like you get to, I know he was talking about that when he was on the show, but like, it is cool, right? Like it's cool to be like,
Super
you
cool.
will not understand, like, I want to know if you understand the shit I just dealt with, right? Like, I want to hear your reaction to this and see if I'm reacting, right? And I've worked some places he hasn't worked, and he's, I've told him a story, be like, you did what? It's like, yeah, I did that. He goes, I've never done that.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool too, right? Is like doing some stuff that he hasn't necessarily done.
The crazy thing, and this is what your dad did touch upon, and he's like, it's a little bit different as a parent, and I'm sure my wife and I are going to come along with that and have your dad's experience like he has with you, with our son, because he's telling us he wants to go right into the military right after high school, and then when he comes back and get his medic and then be a paid firefighter.
Absolutely.
I'm like, all right, man. But we'll see what happens, and I hope if that's what he wants to do, that's what he's gonna do. He's kind of stubborn. He's only 11, but he has that focus already. And I'm like, how wouldn't we expect that? Coming from his background and his upbringing with us.
At his age, that's really cool, because I'll tell you right now, I never in a million years, right? Everybody says I went and got my EMT because it's easier to get fire jobs, right? Everybody wants to be a fireman, right? And then you go get on the ambulance, you're like, oh, I'll do this for a little while, make some money, right? And then you just keep getting drug into it, keep getting drug back into it. I'd never, right? And even finishing up EMT class, even working as an EMT, I was like, I'm going to medic class. Like, that's way too much, right? Like, I'm getting my feet wet as an EMT. Like, those medics, they're doing some crazy stuff I've never seen
before. Too much
before,
responsibility.
Right? Yeah, exactly. That's how it went. And then, like, you go through class, right? I kind of got drugged to class. Like, buddy of mine was like, hey, I'm going. And I didn't know anybody else that was going to go, right? So I was like, well, shit, I guess I'm going to medic class. Yep. And then you get there, and if you spent any amount of time on a truck, right? Like, I may not understand why, the medic was given something, but I understand situations when they would give it, right? So, like, all you're really going to medic class for is to learn the why.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I it's crazy, right? It happened like that. I know it's going to make some people angry, but like, I graduated high school 6 years ago, and I've already become a paramedic, and that last 6 years gone, right? I have no idea where it went. Right? All of a sudden, I'm where I'm at, and it's just kind of like, okay, we're here now. This is the box we're in, right?
You're where you need to be and where you're supposed to be, I think. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Heck yeah. So you did start volunteering at the fire service when you're, what, 14?
14.
What about that environment really just sucked you in?
I think it was finally being able to get into it, right? For so long, it was, you're not old enough to, get on that or go see that, or, hey, dad's going to go on a call or whatever. Like, you're not privy to that kind of thing. You don't get to actually ride on the trucks that have the lights and the sirens and all the blinky stuff. But at 14, you start to learn, right? That's what I was there to do. I was there to learn, right? And I think it helps mature a little bit more, because you kind of, decide that, hey, you have a little bit more responsibility than maybe, the average person does. I'm not saying that the average person doesn't have responsibility, but becoming a volunteer at that young, one, it's keeping me out of trouble. I mean, I was never breaking into cars or anything or out drinking and smoking, but
you're a kid. Kids get in trouble.
Yeah. I'd rather spend time at a fire station than to, go out and do all these crazy things and get myself locked up or whatever. It was just normal for me. Like, this is what we do. This is what the good guys do. I want to be a good guy. And I think it was natural when at 14, right? You're like, oh yeah, I'm, big bad fireman thinking you know everything, right? 14 years old, don't I look silly?
But at the time, you thought you knew everything. We all thought we knew everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you get humbled real quick.
Oh yeah. Talk about that. So you became an EMT right out of high school, and you quickly found yourself in some intense situations. It's funny. You're like, what was the worst call you've been on? But what was the first major call that you really affect you, and like, how did that affect you?
So I had graduated high school in June of 2019. I got hired at my first EMS job in August of 2019. Full time. Right. Took the summer off, right? Went on vacation, came right back, immediately started my first full-time job in my career. September 10th, 2019, at about 8:36 in the morning. I was working a 16-hour shift that day on an ALS truck. We got called for a 2-month-old that was not conscious and not breathing. Despite years in the fire department, a month previous on the ambulance, hadn't been to a cardiac arrest, right? Heard about them, right? Never knew, got taught what to do when you get to one, but never been to one, right? I remember getting in the truck and having to find out real quick where we were going, and, getting there, and, you got everybody in the world coming for a call like that. And I remember just getting out of the truck, looking at the house, and just hearing the blood curdling screams, man. Like, just hearing the sheer terror in that family member's voice, right? And I'm trying to keep myself calm, right? Because I'm still playing full of the leader, man. Like, my nose is still wet, right? I'm trying to figure it out. I'm running up to my partner. Hey, what do what can I do? What do you need me to carry in, right? Go upstairs, and we found out all this after the fact. Baby was the son of an 18-year-old girl. At the time, I was 18, and she had 15-year-old twin brothers who belonged to the local fire department, and they were the ones actually doing CPR on the baby when we showed up, right? So, I'm getting there. I'm trying to, again, right? First ever cardiac arrest, so I don't even understand the progression of what we do, right?
Yeah.
Putting pads on them, I don't understand how an EMS cardiac arrest goes. So I'm trying to figure that out. And yet I'm looking at a 2-month-old baby, right? There's no way to process that in the time, but my partner had said to me at one point, right? Because you get in those situations, you get shaky, you get nervous. Partner said, take a breath, go, right? And from that point on, whatever they told me to do, I was getting done immediately, right? We kind of went running out of the house, doing compressions on the baby, got in the back of the truck, and there was a lot more experienced people on scene, so they kind of told me just get in the front seat and wait till we tell you to go. They ended up, like I said, didn't know this at the time, but they put mom and the baby in the front seat with me. I didn't know she was at my age, right? And I'm a month into this. What the hell do I say to her? I didn't say anything.
What do you say?
What do you say?
Yeah.
I drove as fast as I could to the hospital, right? Within reason, keeping my guys safe in the back. You get to the hospital and, you help them get out of the truck. Next thing I know, I'm bagging this 2-month-old baby and we get into the ER, right? Drop the kid off. And then as you're walking away to make the stretcher, that's when your emotions hit you. That's when your adrenaline finally dumps and you're like, holy shit, what did I just do? What did I just witness? That day, I will never forget that day. I will never forget that time. I would love to forget the way it was handled after the fact. We tried to handle it as a crew. Our truck went out of service for a couple hours after that. Allowed my partner to write the trip sheet, give me time to, I guess, just kind of like figure it out, And then later that week, we get surprised by the family at the station, right? I'm working with the same partner and we're backing in. We talked about it all week, right? Just getting it off our chest, realizing that, baby ended up passing away, right? We pretty much ended up coming to the realization there was nothing that could have been done when we got there. But, we talk about it all week. We're coming back after a call with lunch, right? I got a milkshake and sheets in my hand, man. I'm walking in to the lounge. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to eat my lunch, maybe catch up on some paperwork. And, I got a cop car pulling up in front of the station and, baby's mom's getting out. The brothers are getting out. The grandparents are showing up, right? And we walk into the station and they kind of just are like, they singled me out. The family did. And it's not to their fault. It's not to their fault. They saw me and my partner walk in and they said, who's the 18-year-old? I raised my hand and the one uncle of the baby, right? One of the 15-year-old twins was like, I just want you to know you did everything you could and thank you. And I had to remove myself from the room. I got so emotional. Like, I didn't even know what to say to these people, right? I didn't know what to say to myself.
Yeah.
I called 3 people after that call happened. I called my mom, I called my dad, and then I called my girlfriend at the time, right? And I got 3 very different answers from those 3 very different people, right? My mom brought down some chips, some water, snacks for the cruise. Like, hey, you guys had a really bad day. If I can get you something, here we go. And I don't say this to be mean or rude, or I don't have any ill will toward my dad for saying this, but it was kind of one of those like, well, that's EMS, right? And maybe that's something I needed. Maybe that's something I needed to understand, right? At the time, and he'll watch this, right? He'll know. At the time, I was kind of like, what the hell, dude? Like, I just told you what I witnessed.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, as I've grown up, I go, maybe that's exactly what I needed, right? If I'm going to do this job, trial by fire, I don't appreciate, but
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what I needed was, okay, you're going to do this job, there it is, right?
Being so fresh and going into a pediatric arrest like that, man, I've been on several over the years, but it just reminds me of the one I was with my partner Gary and then my buddy Josh. He was brand new and we went on pediatric arrests, and I remember you remember those type of calls, like every detail you can remember, and those are the ones that really stick with you. But I mean, for you to be that new into the field and like you said, that is a trial by fire right there, buddy.
I think my first day ever on the ambulance, I believe, was August 12th. And that call was September 10th. I will never forget that date, that time. If you told me to close my eyes right now, I can hear that grandmother screaming, right? It's, that's shit that'll never go away, right? Like, and I had some issues from that, right? Because kind of your first step into the big boy world, right? I got mom who gave water and snacks. I got dad who kind of said, welcome to it. And, my girlfriend at the time, she was a daycare teacher, right? So what does she know to tell me about seeing a dead kid, right? Like, not comprehending the fact that what we just dealt with, what that looks like, right? All the kids that she's dealing with are happy and, playing.
Healthy and they're...
Yeah, right. Yeah, so, I don't, it was weird, right? Because as a child, when you have a problem and you step up to your parents and you say, hey, I have this issue going on, just to get such wild and different responses, I think was, but looking back on it, I wouldn't have changed how they went.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't have I would commend my dad, right? If he was sitting right here with us right now, not that I can't call him in 20 minutes, but if he was sitting here with us right now, I would probably tell him thank you. Like, that's probably exactly what I needed to hear
Yeah.
from somebody who has spent time in it, has been on the really bad calls, right? Like, that's probably exactly what I needed to hear. And I got from mom what I needed, right? She came down to the station, she checked on us, made sure we were fed, made sure we had water, right? Like, I think I got the best of both worlds and that. So I think ultimately that's what, in the moment, right? I think that ultimately set me up to see what a true support system was when it came to incidents like that.
Yeah.
Was, you need somebody to say, hey, yeah, I acknowledge what you're going through. It sucks, but we're going to get, you're going to get through it. And then some people that'll be there, that'll be like, lay it on me, dude, whatever you got.
Yep.
Right. And I think that's important to have in any support system, right? Whether it's, my situation or, anybody else's situation, just to have those people that make your phone calls, can kind of level your head on the situation, I think is a big thing.
So in the weeks and, the years following, how have you coped with that initial call? Because it's like you said, that's one of those ones that is going to stick with you for probably the rest of your life. But as time goes on, it'll probably get easier. It does, but it's never gone.
Yeah. So I think, and I know this is kind of strange looking back on it, but growing up, right, if we had a loss in our family, the way to kind of grieve and cope with that was you kind of got that week, right? They passed, you kind of got that week leading up to the funeral. And then after the funeral's over, you kind of start to move on, right? So that was all I knew about a grieving process growing up. So, and I had actually kind of known this family through some people I used to go to school with. Like, it was kind of weird. Like, we had mutual friends.
Okay.
And even the grandfather when he came to the station, he had even said, like, hey, we want you guys, if you want to, you're welcome to come to the funeral, right? Being young, right, I was like, this is the only way I know how to cope, and I feel like this is the only way I'm going to get over this, right? I went to the funeral. I was only in the viewing for maybe 10 minutes, right? I didn't want to make it about me. That was not at all about me. That was to give me some kind of closure. And maybe, by the family asking me to be there, right? They're fellow first responders. Maybe that was giving them some kind of closure, right? I was only there for like 10 minutes, right? Went, paid my respects to the family, and I got out of there, right? I came what I needed to do, and I got out of there. And ever since then, it comes in waves, right? Maybe not that specific call anymore, just because of the amount of other stuff that's happened since then. But for a while, like, I remember the first kid call I went on after that, we had a febrile, like a 2-year-old have a febrile seizure. But when we walked in the house, kid was on the floor, nothing but a diaper on, just like this baby, right? Difference was this kid got up and started crying and ran towards mom, right? And the crews on scene knew that I was going to have an issue when I walked in that door.
Sure.
So they made arrangements for me to not have to handle that call, right? Like, I didn't have to drive that kid to the hospital. They made arrangements for me to go back to the station, take a deep breath, not get tripped up, which I commend them for, because I don't know that they're exactly right? Like, I walked in, I saw that, I had to remove myself from the house and kind of like go outside and calm myself down.
Take a deep breath and
yeah. And I commend those older providers for seeing that and recognizing that. I think that's kind of a lost art sometimes. It's being like, hey man, he's had like, 3 jacked up calls this week. Maybe we should just kind of keep him out here. Right.
Yeah.
But since then, I remember it every once in a while. You do, to me, it was no different than losing a family member, because when it's your first one, it's difficult, right? Like, and it slowly gets easier. I don't want to say we get numb to it, because I don't think you ever get numb to it. I'm very anti getting numb to seeing that people.
I think that's the old way of thinking about it,
Yeah,
I don't think
you ever get numb to it. There's an eerie silence in a house when there's a dead body in it, and only people who have experienced that can explain that. And the only times when you're in a house like that do you experience it. So I think, and every time it's different, right? Every situation's different. The way that patient may be, presented or how they were found. Every situation's different. So I think all of them stick with you, and I think I just slowly worked through that to a point where it was like, okay, it can only get better from here, right? Like you kind of get the worst out of the gate, in my opinion, right? Some people don't enjoy some other calls, but some people might enjoy. I don't want to say enjoy. That's a really bad word to use.
I understand.
Some people might be okay with those calls. Think it was kind of like there's nowhere to go, but we can grieve this. We can be upset about that, but all we know is it's uphill from here.
You started with one of the hardest calls that any paramedic or EMT is going to go on, those PED calls. That's what it is. Now, 6 months into your EMS career, COVID popped off.
Yes, it did.
Man, what trial by fire, man. That did change everything in EMS, you know what I mean? So
yeah, I don't think I could have picked a worse time.
Yeah.
To get it, honestly. It's crazy, right? You go through class and they say, there's a whole chapter, right, on biohazards and airborne pathogens and all that crazy stuff, right? Your instructor looks at you and goes, you'll never see this, right? Know it to get past the test, keep moving forward, right? And 6 months into your career, you're looking at older providers like, what is this? And they go, we don't even know, right? Yeah. That's a scary feeling, right? Nobody knows, how many times working on an ambulance at the beginning of COVID, did your decon policy change? Did your PPE policy change? If you had a sniffle, you weren't coming to work for 2 weeks, and that's coming into March, right? Everybody's got the sniffles. It's allergy season. What do I know if I can't smell what you're cooking because my nose is backed up from all the pollen, from all the flowers I just walked past, right? Like such a wild time to have to relearn, right? At 6 months, you start to get a little more confident. You know the routine, the progression more of an EMS call. You've seen a couple things. I haven't seen a lot, but seen a couple things. That getting switched at the drop of a hat, especially, maybe it was better for a new person. Like if it re-hit now, everybody's over it, right? But like watching the service I worked at when COVID started was a 3 ALS truck. I had 3 ALS trucks a day, right? At the height of COVID, you were lucky if we got 1 BLS truck. Everybody was like, screw this. I don't want it. I'm, immunocompromised. I, don't want to be putting masks on when I'm going on calls, whatever have you. Left. Everybody left. The one good thing about it was, for the first month or so of COVID, everybody listened. Nobody called 911. It was actually slower than what you would expect. That was the only good thing about it. But very quickly, did people not care anymore, and your call volume goes back up, but you're working with a skeleton crew. People were scoured, looking for medics all over the place. Your full-time EMTs are working a whole bunch of overtime because your part-timers don't want to leave their job at the hospital where they're wearing that stuff all day long. I couldn't even tell you. I was working 72 hours straight, jumping between 2 services at some points because nobody had anybody.
That's the thing. I missed all of COVID, because that's when I was in the hospital. So when I got out of the hospital, I was like, my wife had to explain what was going on because I was in this bubble and I had no clue. So, we were driving down McKnight Road and there was no one on McKnight Road after she picked me up from Baskin.
The only good thing about being quote unquote essential, no traffic. Yeah. Getting wherever you wanted, whenever you wanted. You knew nobody was pulling you over because they didn't want to put their mask on to come talk to you. That was it. But even then, okay, sometimes you had to, spray out the back of the truck with some cleaning disinfect. It was stuff we probably should have already been doing. Like clean out the back of the trucks, disinfecting the trucks. It was probably stuff that you probably should have already been doing. It was just had a light shed on it now because there's this global pandemic.
Yeah.
That is kind of like, hey, maybe, you shouldn't touch that, touch your food, touch your face, made you think about it a little bit more. That's all, I think.
Now, we're going to get into some heavy stuff here, Tyler. All right. So we'll buckle up and, see if we can get into this. And if there's anything you don't want to answer, it's cool, man. Okay.
I am an open book.
Rock and roll. So losing a colleague in the line of duty is something that no one ever wants to experience. No one. And are you able to speak on how that loss affected your department and you personally?
Yeah. So I guess I'll start from the beginning on that. So November 27th, I was off that day. I got a phone call at probably 10:30 at night asking about, hey, are you at work? Like, one of your work trucks was involved in an accident. Like, they're saying somebody's not doing well, right? Everybody getting the Facebook updates. I remember calling my boss saying, yeah, it happened. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And me just kind of be like, okay, I'm coming in, right? I don't care, don't care about the money, don't care about what else is going on. I'm coming to work. I lived outside of the service area. I was probably like the second farthest away, and I was the second person to the station, right? And it's late at night on the Sunday, so I'm leaving leaving voicemails with family members saying, hey, it wasn't me, I'm okay, but I am going into work, right? And you get there, and we didn't have any information. We didn't know anything, right? We knew that there was an accident. We knew that our guys were involved. We knew who was involved, but we didn't know what their status was, right? So at that point, you just kind of get into a holding pattern. And then right about 11:37 that night, we'd got a phone call that Nick Theophilus had passed away. Was a result of a motor vehicle crash in an ambulance. It doesn't hit you immediately. It took a couple hours, right? So we get the news, and immediately everybody goes, we got to clean this place up because there's going to be 1 million people here in about an hour, right? Like, we know the cavalry's coming for this. So you don't give yourself time to process it off the rip because you're busy sweeping the station or mopping the floor or, making phone calls to people who might be asleep or might not know what's going on, right? I know there was like 5 or 6 of us that had a list of the employees. And I was tasked with calling a couple part-timers like, hey, this happened. You're more than welcome to come in if you want to. If not, we understand, right? But we needed to notify them, right? But hey, this happened. You're entitled to know. And then after a couple hours, right? So we're there all night, sitting around with your guys, sitting around with some CISM people. You just don't know what to do. Like, you're found in disbelief, right? It took probably 2 or 3 hours for me to actually break down and start to cry.
It's surreal.
Right? Like,
it's so real that it's like you said, it's hard to process.
The hard thing for me, right? So I just become full-time there. So that was in November. I just become full-time there in August. So, but I'd been part-time there for over a year, right? And I had known Nick for a couple years before that, and he was only almost 2 years to the day older than me. So he was kind of like the in-between between me at the time being the youngest guy and all the other guys that worked there. Right. And it was like, I lost a great friend and I lost a dude that like connected me to the rest of this department. I've lost the one person in this department that I could probably assimilate with the best. Right. But for whatever reason, that doesn't stop you. But that whole week leading up to his funeral, I can only play back a couple of moments from it. Like, I remember the following morning, his parents went and told his grandmother, and we had gone in an ambulance and stood by on her street. She was an elderly woman in case she had a medical emergency. And they called us down to the house to check on her anyway because she was so worked up. How do I look her in the face and try to make it any better for her? Right? Like, there's no pain I can take off of her shoulders that I'm not already wearing. He's not a relative of mine, but he's my brother. These are guys that we go to work in some very poor conditions and poor situations every day. I'm feeling the same hurt she's feeling. I just haven't known him as long, right? And like, I just, and I remember like I was coming in, I was doing 12 hours in, 12 hours out, 12 hours in, 12 hours out. We only worked 8-hour shifts. I would come in 4 hours early. Hey, what do you need me to do? Right? I was running errands. I was picking stuff up. I was getting things ready for the funeral. I was making phone calls. I was trying to get a schedule together, right? I mean, we're 2 months away from a new month. Our schedule comes out every month. Hate to be morbid, but now we have 2 openings. We just lost 2 paramedics, right? Because we lose him and we lose his partner. His partner's banged up. He can't come back to work. So there's logistics behind it, right? And I remember looking at people and being like, the people who are trusted to do things in this building are the ones that are falling apart. And the guys that kind of got overshadowed by those people are the ones that are working the hardest to get this done for him, right? At the end of the day, whenever we get to this funeral, it's a celebration for him, right? It's a very unfortunate event, right? I'll be the first one to tell you it was preventable, okay? But that still doesn't take away the fact that we lost one of our guys and how much that hurts us and how much that's hurting the family, how much that's hurting the community. I mean, he knew everybody. He knew everybody. Like, there was not one place you could go, like, Nick and I would go to lunch or go to dinner somewhere, and, like, we were getting discounts at the pizza shop because he used to work there. Or, we were pulling over at the gas station to get some gas, and somebody would come over and talk to him because they know him from somewhere. Like, the kid knew everybody. The outreach that he had was unreal, right? To lose that life, to lose that comedic relief, right? Like just the guy that would make you laugh in the station. It sucks. It absolutely sucks. When I reached out to you, after my dad talking about having to manage all that, right? I couldn't imagine being in that position. But I know that our ground level guys, our street medics and our street EMTs, we were never closer.
You guys glued it together, though, and held it together.
Yeah, we buttoned it up, right? I know for the first 24 hours we got put out of service. And then for the rest of the week, we would have like an extra crew from a different service. We were kind of told, if you want to go on calls, go. If you don't. Like, most of us went on calls. And I can tell you for a fact, the first call we went on, coming back from that, me and my partner went on a call. I think it was a pretty, severe cardiac call or severe respiratory call. We dropped the patient off at Shadyside, came back out from dropping the patient off. We were sitting on the back bumper of the truck, and guys from the city were coming over and, offering their condolences and everything. Him and I looked at each other, and we were like, what are we doing? Why are we out here? We're not healthy enough to be out here. He looked at me, and he literally said, I have no idea what I did for this patient. I don't remember. Going through the motions.
Yep.
Right? That's not... And to be honest with you, right, everybody else was so tied up. Who's there to tap you out? Who's there to say, hey, man, you're not looking so hot. Like, maybe you shouldn't get on an ambulance.
You guys were just an autopilot,
Yeah, that's all it was. And, to try and slow down of that or any shift off of that, you're bawling your eyes out. There was nothing else to do.
That's, I think, what you guys were probably doing, just trying to keep yourself busy so you didn't, there wasn't a way to really process it.
It was lock it up and go to work, or don't come in and nobody's going to ask any questions. And I'm not saying that we didn't have the resources, right? We had SISM teams, therapy dogs, post teams, different services, the command system. Like, we had people in the building all week. I will say I worked mainly 4 to 12 during that time. So at 4 o'clock, when all the command system people and all the management people went home and it quieted down, we didn't know what to do with ourselves, right? Like, the noise finally went away, but like the smoke wasn't clear, right? Like that's how I can kind of assimilate it, right? It's like you're kind of dealing with the aftershock of like a flashbang, and you can start to see some stuff, but you can't hear anything, right? It's dead silence. Luckily, it was a busy service, right? But we were slower that week, which I can't thank the EMS gods for enough, because I don't think many people would have gotten the care that they deserved or the care that they needed. I think a lot of us were not jaded, but kind of like, hey man, screw your problems.
Yeah.
We got our own to deal with right now. And that, I felt that, right? And then on top of that, right, it's all over the news, right? People know what happened. You're walking into people's homes, hey, I'm sorry to hear about
over and over, and you can't escape it.
You can't get away from it, man. It's all over the local news, right? You got it catches national interest, right? Because it's a fatal ambulance accident. how often does that stuff not make front page news of gems or something, right? Like, you can't get away from it, right? I didn't watch the news at all that week, but every time I turned to look at the TV, it was something about the crowd, and maybe we didn't need to get away from it, right? Maybe that's what our guys needed, right? We need to be here, need to be helping them, doing stuff. We can deal with it after the funeral's over, right? We got a lot of plans to make. We have to get to this giant event, right? And I can't say enough about the people that showed up, man. Parking lot full of firemen, EMS providers, police officers. I mean, I think it took 25, 30 minutes to get through the whole line of people to pay their respects at the funeral. Like, I couldn't say enough, right, about the people and the services that stepped up to cover for us, that they knew it was a busy service area. They knew, maybe they weren't going in the nicest of environments, and they were like, take a breather, guys. We got it. Since then, I've gone when Chief McIntyre was killed in Brackenridge. We took an ambulance up there because we had officers go up there to help search for the shooter. When Officer Sabansky was shot in McKeesport, we took an ambulance down there. We had another service around here expectedly lose their service director. We took an ambulance over there the next day to cover, and I was on all three of those events because I was so thankful for what other people did for us that I would never allow another service to not feel like that. Right. And I do the same thing with the fire department, right? If there's a fire department here that's dealing with a funeral, hey, what can we do for you, right? Maybe if we're not next door, hey, we'll come sit in your station for a couple hours. Or, we'll put flyers up or whatever we need to do. Let us help you.
To ease
you guys
that
got
load.
enough stuff going on. Let us handle your calls for you. Let us, don't worry about the paperwork. We got it. I will never let another service not feel the support that we felt.
Right. And the unfortunate thing about it is, we don't want to have that reason to give that support. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think that's the most unfortunate thing about EMS today, right? Is it's, oh, you're on that team, I'm on this team, and then, I mean, Jesus, the volunteer fire department, you're in my town, right? Like, I hate those teams. I do. But I got to play them.
Story all in itself.
Yeah, I got a town that I literally surround that wants nothing to do with us, right? Like, it's dumb. Why are we not picking each other up? Why are we not helping each other? Why are we not recognizing, hey, man, you don't look like you can do this today. Why don't you take it off, right?
It's okay to not be okay. We have heard that throughout every single interview that we've had, and it's, now that everything's coming to the forefront, it's okay to not be okay. And absolutely. I really think that's it's going to be driven home. Everyone who's watching these is going to see that over and over again, and hopefully that can make some change. Whether it's the fire or the EMS service, to get that help that everyone needs, because we're not fine. And just like Taylor said, we're not fine. That's the worst word that we can say. I'm fine. The hell you are. We're not fine, man.
No, you are not.
Not fine. So,
and that was, I think it even, like, I was going through the motions even more. That was through I had a 6-month span. In July of 22, a kid I went to high school with was shot and killed in front of his house, in front of his dad. And because I was a little whacker at the time, I showed up to the scene with the service that I worked for, and we took the guy that shot him to the hospital because he got shot too. So I took a guy to the hospital that shot and killed a kid I went to high school with, and not knowing that at the time, but afterward feeling that guilt, right? I lost a grandfather at the end of August. I lost another grandfather at the beginning of September. I was going through a breakup in that time. And, and Nick dying in November. Like, by the end of all that, I was done, man.
Yeah.
I was checked out. I was ready to get out of here.
And I was
ready.
I think what a lot of people don't realize, and maybe they do, but from my observation, is us as providers, we have our own personal lives and problems that we deal with. And then we come in and we are expected to perform at the highest level that we can to take care of others. And we sacrifice a lot, man. And that's why
it was right hook after right hook after right hook. And it was like, I don't think this is ever going to stop. Yeah. If I had 2 good days, I was like, what's coming tomorrow? What horrible thing am I going to see? What horrible thing's going to happen to me or my family? After that 6-month stretch, man, I was in therapy at that point. I'd gone and I was doing some online therapy, teletherapy. And after all of that happened, losing 2 friends, losing 2 grandfathers, going through a breakup, the therapist told me, she's like, hey, you need to start coming into the office. Like, you've been through a lot of shit in the last 6 months. We need to make sure you're okay. Right. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I can give you that. Right. And it took a lot of work to get me to go to therapy. I was miserable for a long time. I was working myself to death. I was working 100 hours a week. At the time, right, as an EMT, I was making like $2 more than minimum wage. Right. So you're like, oh, money's great. Oh, this overtime thing? Yeah. I want more of that. Right. Yeah. So I tried to do the therapy thing, right? I got 1 in-person session in. We scheduled a second one. I showed up to the building, Bart. It was locked. Nobody was there.
Your therapist didn't show up, or what was going on?
They were closed that day. So I went through all that shit. You asked me to come into this building. Mind you, it took me a while to actually talk to somebody.
Yeah. As it does for all of us here, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
I show up to the building and you're not even there.
What a disservice.
I've not spoken to a therapist since. I've been on a couple of medications since. I can tell you that. I'll be honest about that. But I've not spoken to a therapist since. How dare you tell me that it is paramount that I come in person because of all the stuff that I've dealt with in 6 months just be given up?
That's such a disservice. Like, I can't even fathom that. I don't understand how that even happened. Whether it's just a scheduled thing or like, how's that even work? How does that even work? Oh my goodness.
I was emailing her, right? Hey, I'm at the front door. Lights are out. Door's locked. Nobody's here. Oh my God, I totally forgot. Okay, well then obviously my problems don't matter.
Yeah.
Right? Now I'm going into lockdown, right? Now I'm going into, hey, suck it up. You don't need to go talk to anybody. You're good, right? It obviously wasn't that bad if she didn't remember to be here, right? Like, and then you spiral again, right?
Yeah.
It's now another cycle of screw this. I'm going to work miserable. I'm miserable around my family. I'm miserable around my significant other. I'm snapping at everybody. I don't want to be that guy.
And I think, with that therapy and like you said, on medication, I just recently, past few months, got on medication myself. But has anything really helped? And you said you haven't gone back to therapy. Are you willing to try anything? Because I do have some really good resources, Tyler.
So I did some work. I was on a medication before I was going into that therapy. They did put me on some medication that made me, the best I could describe it was my body was 3 feet ahead of where my head was. Like, that was how numb I felt. And what's funny was I was at work. When I finally noticed that and I realized that I didn't like it, I was at work. My partner had gotten into the truck, and you as an EMT will understand this. I got told, hey, we got another transport coming out of the hospital, right? Not what we signed up for, not what we want to do, but it's part of the job, right? We got another transport coming out of the hospital. And I looked at my partner and I was like, okay. And I went back to looking out the windshield of the truck and I went, that would usually make me angry. That would usually upset me because we've been busy all day. Why did I not
freak out?
My mind on that. Yeah. Why did I not start, yelling and screaming and cussing and saying, why do we have to do it, right? We've been running all day. I've been here since midnight, blah, 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 blah. And I went, I don't like that. I don't like that feeling. I don't like that at all. Right? So, like, I kind of got away from that medication. And then recently, this past year, this this kind of gets thrown into the mental health thing too, because I've been dealing with this. This past year, I was engaged. I was moving to South Carolina because that's where she lived and she worked. I'd gotten a job down there, right? First big boy moves, right?
Oh, yeah.
Big city, working as a paramedic, out of your comfort zone, nowhere near family, nowhere near, anything you've ever known for the 23 years, 24 years you've walked this earth. At the time, my ex-fiance had said to me, hey, you need to change some things or this isn't going to work. I was snapping, right? Because I wasn't going to therapy, wasn't taking any medication. I was snapping. I was angry. I was tired.
You're burnt out.
Burnt out is a very, yes. And I took that and I said, okay, you're probably right, because this move is probably giving me a bunch of anxiety. So I went and I got back on medication and I was taking it religiously. I started feeling better. I started communicating better with people. I started having more of a level mind. Things were going well, right? All the way in through the move, taking my meds, feeling better, right? Ready to get up and do stuff around the house. I'm there 20 days. I'm on my second day of my new job down there. Tells me she don't want to do it anymore. But when I tell you I lived in another state for 20 days, I had no choice but to move home. Where was I going to go? I didn't have anybody. The closest people I had was Bain and Ange. They lived an hour and a half north.
Yep.
I wasn't driving an hour and a half to work every day. I couldn't do it. There was nothing in me, right? And I even thought, right? I went through the rest of that work week, right? Because I was in training. The rest of that work week, I didn't say a thing to anybody down there, right? I didn't say anything to my bosses, nothing to my coworkers. I was obviously making phone calls back up here and saying, hey, this is going on. I don't know what to do, right? My dad got in the car, came down. This is Labor Day weekend. Got in the car, came flying down, spent the weekend with me, And I was even thinking, like, I can do this, right? I can do this. And that Friday, riding around town, learning the service area, right? And we drive past where I proposed, and I was like, nope, can't do it. Gotta move out. Can't do it. Right. Gotta get out of here, right? I repacked up my life, moved home, didn't have a job. Luckily, I was able to move right back into where I live because I live with my grandmother right now. No source of income. My life is packed in a U-Haul trailer. I honestly feel lucky that I was on medication at that point.
Sure.
It took me 3 days to break down about that. I was staying in the hotel for most of that weekend. It took me 3 days to break down about that because of my medication. I hated that. I didn't like that. You have that that pit in your feeling, like, I am so upset, but
need to get something
out.
Yeah.
It took 3 days. And then after that, maybe one more time that weekend, and I didn't start to tear up again until I came through the Fort Pitt tunnels and saw the city of Pittsburgh, and I went, this doesn't feel like home. That sucked.
Yeah. You didn't know where you belonged.
I had nothing, man.
Yeah.
That was the first time since I graduated high school that I didn't have a job. I didn't know what I was going to do the next day. I refused to go home because I go to where I live because I didn't want to put my life back together. I didn't want to believe this was real.
Right.
I don't want to believe I just, spent the last 3 months preparing to move, and in 20 days, that shit. I mean, I got a license and everything. Like, I had to come home and change my license out, and people were like, "You just got this." Well, I got told to, screw, basically, get out of here. I came home, and then I, was home for a couple months. Met my current girlfriend. Things were going well. I slowly weaned myself off the medication. I feel great, man. Things are going well.
Good.
I'm doing, being a deputy chief here has been awesome. It's allowed me to do some really cool things, make some decisions, stuff that I felt that I could always do. And now I think I'm finally on an even keel to do that, right? I've kind of gone out and got punched in the gut a couple times.
Big boy decisions, though.
Yeah. Gut check, right? Got myself a job. I only got to work 2 days a week, right? Always awesome. Working for EMS, you can get your 40 hours done.
In and out.
Yeah. Honestly, I've never felt, it comes and goes. There's times where I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And there's times where, right, especially when it's snowing, right? I was never supposed to see this shit anymore. It's supposed to be sunny and 65 where I'm at.
Yeah.
You know, but being here all winter and it being 4 degrees, and I get everybody gets that seasonal depression type stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's that what if, what would I be doing right now if that didn't happen? Where would I be at? What would I be doing? Who would I have met? Who would I have seen? What would I have seen? What would I have experienced?
I'm a firm believer in things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
My experience, dude, I'm closer to 50 than I am 40 now. So it does, like, life just kicks you in the nuts, and how you overcome that and how you recover from that. That's what builds your character, man. I only wish you the best, Tyler, for real, brother. Like, it's tough. That's a tough thing to handle. I sort of went through sort of a similar thing way back in the day. I moved to Ohio, had a house in Ohio with this one chick, and what if that would have stayed? I would have never met Britt. I would have never got married to Britt. We would have never had Logan. So,
right.
You can find that silver lining in everything. You really can. Like,
and my girlfriend Carrie, she's been really good at that. She's been really good at understanding, right, that, like, hey, this real messed up thing happened. It's taking me a minute, right? It's gonna take a minute for me to kind of come down from that. It's gonna sneak up at the worst time, but it's not gonna hit me when I'm all by my lonesome and I'm not bothering anybody. It's going to hit me when I'm in the middle of something, right?
Sure.
Or I'm going to snap, or I'm going to lose, I'm going to snap, or I'm going to get upset, and you're going to be, very confused. I said, it's going to happen. I'm going to be completely honest with you, but I appreciate the time that she's given me to kind of work through it. And she's, very understanding of, hey, I'm here, right? If you want to talk about it, let's talk about it. If you don't want to talk about it, let's just, change the channel, right? Let's get up and change whatever we're doing, right?
And I think you just hit a nail on the head with one of the words you said. You said to work through it. I've noticed over the years, people try to get over it, get around it. My healing from when I got out of the hospital, dude, the PTSD was real. I already had it. I was diagnosed with it before that all happened. Aspirin, woke up, night terrors, screaming, crying, because I didn't know if I was going to live or die. But it still comes up. It rears its ugly head from time to time. But I did a lot of soul searching, like being in the hospital for 2 months by yourself during COVID, not being able to see your family. Get to know yourself pretty freaking well.
I could not imagine, dude. I could not imagine.
But man, like, for real though, like, I worked through it. My wife and I and my son, we worked through it, through all of the hard stuff, all of the crying, everything. Dude, I made it. I made it through it. I didn't climb up over it. I went straight in and went right through that big old rock, and we got through it.
You have to acknowledge that issue is there. Pretending that elephant is not in the room is not going to make it go away.
Absolutely not.
Right? Like,
Absolutely
you need
not.
to talk about it, right? You don't need to dwell, but you need to talk about it. You need to get it off your chest.
That's what we're doing right now.
Maybe you need to, that's why you need that punch in the chest that, hey, man, yeah, that sucked. You got to
look where we're at now.
Time to take a step, right?
Yep.
Time to, we've sat here and talked about it for an hour, right? Time to work on to the next thing, right? And I think that's worked for me most. Surround myself with people that'll let me run off on my rants and let me, just kind of spit out any, whatever's ailing me that day, right?
Yeah.
Coming home from work and just, oh, this crew was making me mad, or, this patient did this, or blah, 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 like, yeah. But then in turn, right? Like I said, my girlfriend's a police officer. Hey, what was bothering you at work today? you know, and her being
Gets it.
like, oh, my coworker doing this, but two completely different jobs, right? So it's not like we're competing for who had the worst day,
Yeah.
right? They're their own worst day in their own way,
Sure.
right? He may have, you know, been called to the same house for the same domestic 3 times, you know, and I may have gone to the same house to pick Granny up off the toilet 3 times, right? Or a bunch of transfers or whatever have you, right? Like, our days are simultaneously bad, but they're bad in different ways.
But at least she understands, you know, you're lucky to have
Absolutely.
that, you know, same with Britt, you know, she has the public safety background. At least she understood what I was going through. With anything, I would come home from the old 210, you know what I mean? She knew I had a bad
absolutely.
day. She got it. And you said, you know, keeping busy and getting out of bed and doing things that you enjoy, you know, it's crucial for you. What are some of your things that you do outside of work to help you reset and to get back on your focus?
The unfortunate thing is I don't have a hobby. Being at the fire department's my hobby. I know it's not healthy. When I came back from South Carolina, I completely immersed myself in this place.
I get it.
I was here all the time, running every call, and this was before we even had a QRS service, so everything was fire calls, right? Putting out car fires and going to crashes and going to house fires and doing all that stuff. I completely immersed myself in this place, like I said, because I didn't want to go home and unpack my life, right? And it took for a buddy of mine to be like, hey, listen, like, you kind of need to stop sleeping on a recliner. We're going to go home and we're going to put your house together. Like, we're going to put your room back together, right? And it's surrounding myself with people like that have really allowed me to immerse myself in this, right? I got people that are checking on me from every other direction. My way, I know that if I say, let's take today, for instance, let's say I didn't work today and I was at home all day and I laid in bed all day, right? Sometimes it happens, right? Catching up on sleep.
Sure.
Feel like having a lazy day, whatever, right? Tomorrow, I have to get out of bed. I have to get a shower. I have to get dressed. I have to leave the house because I know that if I lay in that bed for too long and I stay confined to the 4 walls of my bedroom, all I'm going to do is dwell, right?
Yep.
It could be as simple as driving the half a block down the road to the local Sheets and getting something to drink. I have to get out of the house.
Gotcha.
I cannot sit within those 4 walls, and because that's exactly what I'll do. I'll sit there and I will dwell on everything that's gone wrong. I'll sit there and listen to that baby's grandma crying. I'll sit there and, you know, and think about, you know, Nick's funeral. I'll sit there and I'll think about, like I said, I lost 2 grandfathers during all that. I guarantee you I haven't even more than them. So much happened in that amount of time, right? I'll think about, memories with them and go, oh my God, they're not even here, right? Like, it all happened so quick. That stuff just, if I sit in those 4 walls, right, and public safety, gotta be dark, gotta be cold, right? Make it go out like a light, right?
Yeah.
But it's not healthy to be in.
It's not.
It's not healthy to be in.
Not
you gotta get
healthy
out, right?
to be in your own head, man. Like I said, Tyler, after we quit recording, we're going to talk a little bit. I have some resources that I'm going to pass along to you because I promise you it'll help. Okay.
Absolutely.
Because,
Absolutely.
like you said, you just said it, you're like, you had your grandfathers die and you don't even know if you've been able to process that yet. You just coming on the show says that you want to talk. You know what I mean?
If I'm not with that at home, right? If I'm going to work and not thinking about that stuff, and I go to work and I'm just as, and I, like, all I'm doing is playing ping pong with myself.
Right.
Right? Throwing myself at home, thinking about stuff that's going on at home. Throwing myself at work, thinking about stuff that's going on at work. When I come here, right, I'm not going to say that we don't see bad stuff, right? But, being volunteer firefighter, how often do you really see the bad stuff? Right?
Sure.
You're more apt to see that in an EMS capacity more often than not, right? Unless your fire department's running your EMS calls you're more than likely going to see it on the ambulance as opposed to being on the fire engine. Being here, right, I'm surrounded by my friends, the guys that make me laugh. I'm outside, right? Today, yesterday, and the day before, beautiful.
Full day.
All the garage doors at the station wide open. Let's air it out. Let's go outside. Let's cook out. Let's whatever, right? I think that's what I do to get myself out of there, right?
That's a coping mechanism for sure.
I sit around the guys that'll make me laugh. I sit around the guys that might even, honestly, some of my guys, they'll sit here and bust balls about things that I have issues with. And honestly, it helps you get over a little bit because when you roll with those punches, right, like, you start to go, you know what, yeah, that situation is turning out to be pretty funny. We can make light of a situation that maybe wasn't the greatest, right?
Sure. But at least you're talking it out. You know what I mean? Like you said, you're surrounding.
Yeah, it's indirect getting over it. It's indirect communicating it. It's indirect working through it.
Sure. You're
not sitting there and consciously thinking, this issue, I need to get through this issue. You're sitting there and you're catching a joke from this guy about that, and then you're throwing one back at him, and then this one's throwing one in the ring, right? Like, that banter, on top of not being stuck in my house by myself thinking about all this shit, helps. That's what I do, right? I know my dad talked about, being in that high intensity environment all the time, right? Being at the firehouse, going to work, in a high intensity environment. I'm not saying I don't go home, right? When I go home, I go to sleep. I lay down in my bed. I play video games. I watch YouTube. I do whatever, right? Like, I still have stuff that calms me down. It's just, this is what I've truly enjoyed, right? Like, I don't go out and buy extravagant stuff for myself. I don't treat myself to anything, because how often, I don't know how often you would feel this, but how often does somebody in public safety go, I deserve this big, great, wonderful, grand thing, and I'm going to go buy it, right? We don't treat ourselves ever, unless it's with, an ice cream sandwich from the EMS room, right? Like, we don't treat ourselves to anything. We don't take care of ourselves. We don't,
The Lorna Dunes always got me.
Exactly. Like, looking for a Turner's tea when you're walking into West Penn, man. Like,
so what do you think, in your opinion, what's the biggest barrier preventing responders like ourselves from speaking about our mental health issues that we do have? We all have them. We all have them.
I think too many people like to keep secrets. I think too many people, or one, right? They're afraid to spread rumors, right?
Yeah.
So they're afraid to say something to the wrong person. Now that person takes what they said.
Everyone knows.
That giant game of telephone. Now everybody knows, right? Now everybody knows that, hey, he might be slacking, or he's blowing up at us because he's got issues, or, he's going to screw up on a call and get me killed, right? Like, I think people are afraid of that more so than, because it's all social image, right? Like, everything's about social media. Everything's about, look at me, look at what I did this week, look at what I've accomplished, look at what I've achieved. And it's okay to have those things in moderation, right? It's okay to put on your Facebook that you passed your paramedic exam and, get some love and some congratulations for it. But people don't want to tarnish that image with, hey, I got mental health problems, or hey, I'm struggling, or hey, I might have flipped out at you at the firehouse this week, and I'm sorry, but, I got my own demons that I'm dealing with, right? Like that. Nobody wants that. That looks bad. That doesn't read pretty when you're talking about, a personality or being likable, right? Because everybody wants to be likable. I think that's the biggest thing, is people worry about their image too much. And you're not weak, right? I just sat down and talked to you for the last hour and a half about all of the crazy shit that's happened in the last 6 years of my public safety and personal life. And this video is going to be seen by
everyone,
future employers, right?
Yeah.
People I look up to, mentors, right? They're all going to know. I'm not shy about it. I'll tell you straight up. If I messed up, if I feel messed up, I'm going to tell you, hey, I'm not good today, right? Today's a bad mental health day, right? Maybe I just laid in bed 20 minutes too long, and now today's ruined, right? Today's done. Tomorrow, when I get out of bed, it's going to be a better day, because I'm going to go outside, It's a new day. I'm going to talk to new people. We're gonna have a good day, right? And I know my limit on that. So I think, like I said, going back to the original question, I think people are too afraid of their personal image.
Yeah.
And not what the old way was, right? Like if you said something, you were weak. I think it's more how they feel that they portray themselves to the general public.
Sure.
I think people are afraid to say something because of that.
It's such a shame, because like you said, everything is image nowadays. Everyone's on social media and it's funny. Like you look and you see these people that are always happy. You know what I mean? You see those portrayed images, and it's bullshit.
You've watched enough, Discovery ID to know that those are probably the two that end up killing each other, or the domestic fights or whatever, right? Those people are not how they portray themselves, right? I don't think that I've necessarily put out there about myself that I'm, a happy-go-lucky person, right? I've put posts out there on, Nick's anniversary, right? Of saying, hey man, I'm struggling. I miss you, but we're going to keep pushing forward. You keep watching over us. We're going to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Right. I got this bracelet on my wrist. I got this tattooed on my skin. I'll never forget him. Right. He's with me every day. There's going to be some days where, hey, it's kind of creeping in. Right.
Yeah.
And then there's other days where, hey, I'm good. Right. I can memorialize him and not grieve him. Right?
Having that person always with you, because they always are.
Yeah.
They're always going to be
Absolutely.
with you.
Absolutely.
Now,
sometimes they're messing with you. I don't appreciate that.
It sounds funny for me to say, but it's kind of it's funny to me. It is, because I'm getting really old. Like I said, I'm closer to 50 than I am 40 now. So if you were to go back and give advice to your younger self when just starting EMS, what would you say to yourself?
So it's funny, right? It's a funny question because I'm only 24. People go, oh, you're just a baby. I don't feel like a baby.
Oh, I get it.
This is what a baby feels like. It's one tired baby. Because the sheer amount of work and experience that I've gotten in the last 6 years, I'm a completely different person.
Yeah.
Completely different person. I would tell that kid, right, slow down, right? If the house is on fire, it'll still be on fire when you get there, right? If that person's not breathing, chances are they're not going to be breathing when you get there, right? Take your time and learn your craft, right? And at the same time, take care of yourself. Recognize that things are going to make you upset. Things are going to piss you off. You're going to be tired. You're going to be cranky. You're going to be hungry. You're going to be whatever. You don't need to portray that or put that on anybody else. They don't deserve you snapping out at them because they asked you a question.
Yeah.
Right? Because they asked you how your day was. Be kind. I think I've tarnished a lot of relationships and upset a lot of people with the way I was, 18, 19, 20, 21. And I get everybody's like that, right? Feel like they own their world.
Sure.
They're untouchable. They're invincible. I don't think I ever personally felt that way. And I think I've done a fairly good job ever since I became a medic of not having that paragod complex that everybody says they have. I'll be the first one to tell you, I don't dig for the bottom of protocols, right? There's only 2 or 3 lines in there that really mean anything to me. After that, that's a doctor's problem, and I'm 5 minutes from a hospital, so I will do my job and get them to definitive care. Try to stay humble. I definitely do. I try to, it's crazy to me because I got to where I am so quickly, but it's not like I didn't work for it.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? I put the work in to get the certifications. I put the work, I did the truck time. I did the hospital time. I took all the tests. I, did all the skills. Whatever I had to do. And it's finally gotten me to a place where it's like, okay, you've proven that you know what you're doing, right? Let's put it to the test now. Let's see how you can maybe show somebody, right? I've been kind of kicking around maybe doing some instructing, whether that's on the fire side or on the EMS side, right? Let's see if you can teach people to do what you do, right? Let's see if you can offer some knowledge to maybe, because as much as I don't think there is, I still think there might be.
I still hear you.
Okay. Just as much as people say it, or at least I don't think that there's another generation of EMS coming. There is, right? We just don't see it yet. I think it's slowly going to start to trickle back when people realize that, you got to go to, it's a good thing to have when medical school or whatever, but what am I going to teach those kids, right? When I came into EMS, it was a whole bunch of people telling me, get out, you're going to regret this. Why are you here? I don't want to be that guy. I want to encourage you to be here. I want to encourage you
be the best you can be, man.
Yeah, I want to encourage you to be doing my profession and doing it the best you can and serving the people that call you for help.
That's what our patients deserve. Our patients deserve the highest level of care by providers that are there to do the job because that's what they're there to do. We need to have good providers out there, and it all starts with, like you said, the next generation coming in and not being told, I'm grizzled here, I'm the old salty paramedic or old salty firefighter. This is how we do it. The progression of pre-hospital care is there. We're lucky enough to live in Pittsburgh where that care and
the amount of things
continued education is there.
The amount of things that have changed in just the short 6 years I've been doing this is crazy, right?
Yeah.
Going through med class and learning, obviously learning through all the medications and stuff. And now they got me taking, the blood products, right? Was never on anybody's radar, 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, you see it on Life Flight and all, the flights, the flight medics and nurses, you see them giving blood products and
you
stuff.
You're calling all the onesie warriors to get, sedation and give blood and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Now they're trying to give it to us. And, it's evolving the same way that the fire department's evolving, right? The fire department's evolving the same way. It's just harder to entice those people because they're not getting paid to be here.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to deter anybody from this. I want people to come in here and enjoy it. It is hard. I'm not going to pretend it's not. It's difficult. It's going to test you.
Oh, yeah.
But if you treat it the right way, right, and if you take it from somebody who maybe hasn't treated it the right way in the past, let's get you to a path for victory, right? I had a junior here. Now, within the last couple of years, he was getting ready to get out of high school. We got him through EMT class. He got his Fire 1. He got his rescue cert, was doing well, coming here, hanging out. He's now a paid firefighter EMT in Currituck County, North Carolina. Couldn't be more proud of that kid, right? Took him out of, his life wasn't a bad situation, but he had some issues in school, right? And I was approached by his family saying, hey, he loves doing this stuff. Help him get to where he needs to be, right? Like, that kid is my success story. His name's Mike Mahoney. He's one of my best friends. I'm so proud of him because he put in the work to do it, right? It's like that scene from Backdraft. I was up there doing it. He's out there doing it. Right? That's awesome. I'm so proud of that kid. I want everybody that comes through the door of the firehouse, the door, at the EMS station, to come in, sit down, listen to what some people have to say, and be prepared to do the job to the best of their ability. And EMS and the fire service will never fail.
Yep. You want those new people to come in, and I think this is where the education part with the seasoned veterans. It's not these new kids coming in and coming up to your level. You want those people. A true leader says, I want you to do better than I did. I want you to be a better provider than I am. And that's how the profession will continue on and keep on having those high level of paramedics to come through and any other responders.
That's 100% what I want to see, right? Yep. I don't need, the outside the building to say, Tyler Kelly's Firehouse, right? What I want these guys to remember, if they remember anything about me, right? They may not even remember my name. What I want these guys to remember is, do your job and do it well, right? Always leave the area or leave, whatever you came to better than how you found it. Mm-hmm. Right? It's very simple. It's extremely simple, right? If it wasn't simple, they wouldn't allow people to do this for free, right? Especially in the fire department, right? It's okay to take time to build on those things, but continue to build. Don't get to a certain point and stop. Don't get to, keep going to trainings, keep educating yourself, right? I'm going to Seven Springs next weekend. Yeah, we all know it can turn into a lot of fun, but I'm going to get educated as well, right? Like I'm going to get classes, right? I want to learn what else is out there. I want to better hone my craft, right? I'm only coming up on 2 years as a medic. That's infancy to a lot of these guys, right? And who better to learn from than the guys that have been doing it since the inception of EMS, right? Like, why are we not celebrating those guys more? Why are we not listening to those guys, right? Oh, because they're dinosaurs and they, that's how we've always done it. Well, no, those guys, the guys that are still in it now, who started doing EMS in the late 70s or early 80s, imagine all of the training and all of the progression they had to go through to get to where they are now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
How much medicine has changed. Those guys should be celebrated because of how much they've worked and how much more they're allowed to do now than the people who taught them how to be a paramedic back then.
I'm going to say 2 words, and I think you'll know what I'm talking about. Just like what you said with the dinosaurs, but let's just say Freedom House. So.
Exactly. Those guys, right? And I've listened to John Moon. I believe it's John Moon, right?
John Moon.
I've listened to him speak.
Yep.
Right? That story is insane.
Absolutely.
Like, it's a couple of dudes that had some Suburbans and were like, hey, all these people are down in our neighborhood, maybe we should fix that.
Yeah.
They saw an issue and they went and fixed it. That's our job as public safety, right? We see an issue and we fix it. That's what we do. Why are we not continuing to do that with the service as a whole and also with ourselves, right? You see an issue, address it and fix it.
Yeah. That's the amazing thing. You see those dinosaurs, those are the pioneers, man. The Nancy Caroline was my medical command. Come on, man. Nancy Caroline books, EMT, paramedic books, that's what it was all about.
Yep.
So,
and they just keep getting thicker and thicker.
Right? Tyler, so this has been a really great interview, man. Like, I love sitting down and talking to you. It went very well, but we have one last question for you. And let's leave it with a bang, okay, brother?
You got it.
What's the most important message you want to leave with our listeners today?
I want everybody who's listening to know that regardless of what I may have dealt with in the past, regardless of what I may have seen in the past, I will always show up to help. That's what I signed up for. That's the person I am. That's what I pride myself to be, is when my phone rings or the pager goes off or somebody knocks on the door, somebody waves me down, I'm coming to help you. I promise you. What I'm trying to do is not to anger you, is not to make you feel upset. When I'm asking, a family member of an overdose patient if they take drugs, it's not because I'm judging them. It's because I want to help them. I'm coming to help you. Because you called me to help you, and that's my job, is to help you. That's what I love to do, is to help you. I could get better at helping myself. I'm going to be the first one to be honest about that. But I think that's the nature of the beast. I think public safety, people who are in public safety as a whole, could always be better at taking care of themselves. But no matter what, we're coming to help you.
We're going to leave you guys with that. Tyler, it's been real, my man.
I appreciate it, Bart. This has been awesome. I love what you guys are doing. I love the message that you're putting out there. I love the guests that you're having on. This has been, like, ever since I heard you guys were coming out with this, I wanted to be a part of it, man. And I'm glad you guys could make that happen, because this is so much, this is definitely needed. Especially, not just across the country, across the world, across the county, right? Everybody here is close-knit.
Yeah.
Everybody knows everybody. And there's nothing wrong with people knowing what our story is, what we've gone through, what we've come from. If this changes how I look in some people's eyes, that's okay. They know the real me, right? And that's all I want them to understand is, hey, if I'm snapping out at you, there's some other shit running through my head, man. It's not you. It's not you at all. I'm there to help you, right? Like I said, anybody calls, right? My phone can ring right now with, a friend, coworker. Hey, I need some help with something. All right, man, I'm coming.
Oh yeah. Like I said, man,
I appreciate you guys a lot. I support 100% what you guys are doing, and you know, I want you to keep fighting a good fight, man, because I really do think you're making an impact.
That's all we can hope for. When you reached out to us via email, man, I was like, Tyler Kelly, hell freaking yeah, dude.
Yeah, man, you got the old man. It's time to have the youngin.
That's right. It's a family affair.
Time to hear from the new generation. You know,
that's it. But it is, man. And like I said, I'm gonna drive it home. This is our mission to make sure that our fellow responders have a platform to be able to come on and just pour their heart out, man. That's what we want, because we're human beings and we want everyone to know that we have a tough job to deal with, along with our own personal stuff that we deal with, but we still want to come to you as patients and as people that need help, because we are helpers. We come to help, and that's our job, and we want to do it well.
We're a phone call away.
Oh yeah, man.
I tell everybody that. I'm a phone call away. I pick it up for everybody.
Good deal, man. Tyler, thank you so much, man.
Absolutely.
Guys, if you want to be on the show, please reach out to us at twwcpodcast@proton.me. Man, I almost forgot that. Shoot us an email. We'll try to get you on the show. We're scheduling out a lot. We have a lot of really good stuff upcoming. I can't wait to get your show edited out so we can get you released here in the next few weeks, Tyler.
Oh, yeah, man.
But thank you so much, man. We really appreciate it. Stick around here, and we'll talk to you guys later. We're out of here. Thank you, guys.